So many times people say, well, big deal, I got this melanin, but what has it done for me lately? I mean, what's all this information supposed to mean to me? You know, I put something in, I want to get something out. Why should I put some understanding in this stuff and it ain't going to help me in life? Well, just bear with me for a moment.
I want to bring it to your attention about just a few more things. It was real interesting when we started looking at drugs, because I was very concerned about that. If I prescribe for you a phenothiazine drug, which is Haldol, Elavil, Prolixin, Thorazine, all of these different type drugs, because of supposing you're having some problems being able to stay in the orientation of this space and time and this reality. Or if I prescribe for you a hypertensive drug, was I really giving you the proper concentration based upon your unique chemistry? And when I began to do the research on that, just these two particular families of drugs, I found out that I was doing you a disservice, because it has been identified that giving Africans and melanin-dominant individuals Haldol, Prolixin, Thorazine, etc., the dosage has to be significantly low. Because of the amount of neurologic tissue that we have, this drug has a tendency to cause extreme impairment of the nervous system very rapidly. And that it had already been identified that the Caucasians needed a much higher concentration of these drugs to have the effect than the African. Now, for those patients that have come to see me that for whatever reason were diagnosed to have been schizophrenic or had an acute or mild depression, they were on the highest doses of this stuff. And when you looked in the PDR, it was actually the same dose that was recommended that was based for the Caucasian. Thank you. So I was quite concerned about the fact that many of the individuals that I was seeing that were taking this were having problems with memory loss. They were having problems with bladder control. They were having problems with severe paranoia, even far beyond when they got on the medication. And I would ask them to ask their doctors, did they know anything about why they should have these kind of reactions? And every time, the patient would come back and say the doctor doesn't want to cut the dose down. As a matter of fact, too many times it was increased. So I'm like, oh, this is very,
Let's look at the human race. Let's look at the human race. We look at that. You say, oh, yeah, okay, we're different now. Skin is different. Yeah. But we also have more vitamins and minerals in our body than any other race. The melanin causes you to have more vitamins and minerals in your body than any race. That can present a problem, a big problem, especially if all the lab values are set on the Europeans, on Caucasians, who have the least amount of vitamins and minerals in their body than any race. That's where the problem begins. Now we're coming along and you go to the hospital. They take your blood, they send it to the lab, but the lab values are based on white people's vitamins and minerals values. So when your vitamins and minerals way up here drop all the way down to theirs, which is rated #1, their lab value going to say, ain't nothing wrong with you, you're healthy. You said, but I don't feel good. I said, well, according to, ain't nothing wrong with you. It's in your mind, something, but your lab values say you're fine. No, no, no. Your vitamin and mineral level dropped all the way down to their normal level, which means you're twice as sick. So you go back and you look at all the disease categories, and sure enough, you're twice as high in all of them, because you're trying to be healthy by another race's melanin value. So we're going to learn how to find out how much melanin you have this evening. Find out whether you got enough to even be black. Maybe you're perpetrating a fraud. This melanin causes you to have more life in you, more moisture in you. So we can just look at the earwax. This is the earwax of Northern Chineses, Japaneses, 98. You have the most moisture in your earwax in any race. Isn't that something? I thought you said it was under the skin everything was the same. Oh yeah, your hair is different, your earwax is different, you have more vitamins and minerals in your bones, which we call nutrient density. So under the skin, you're different. Whoever told you under the skin everybody's the same, they lied. because biochemically you are different. So we have to be treated differently. Whenever you have the high end of a lab value, like they take your blood, send it to the lab, and they show you these values, say 80 to 120 is normal. Well, if your value comes up to be 110, and that's almost close to the highest level there, almost, you got it. Whatever it is, you got it. The high end of that normal, you got it. The low end of that normal, you got it. That's how you interpret the lab values according to your vitamin and mineral content. You got to translate this stuff. You got to make this stuff black. They ain't going to do it for you. Say, wait a minute. The normal value is numbers between 80 and 120, and I had 110. You got it. Whatever it is, you got it. That presents a problem. Because 80 to 120 is a normal range for someone who has a good blood sugar rating. But the problem is black people get diabetes in the normal range for white people. They get it at 90, which is in the normal range for white people. You're walking around with diabetes. But you're looking at the normal values for a race that has another vitamin and mineral level than you, another melanin content than you. In the normal range for the diabetes test, if you're in the normal range on the high end of it, you got it. You got diabetes. That was proven over and over again. So Nat Emerson, New York, that does that research kind of work, named Dr. Ann Brown.
Melanin granules or chemistry in them. Melanin is a chemistry. This is not something that's a cell. It is a chemical component. EU melanin is dark. FAO is a melanoid. FAO is a melanoid, means it is a form of our melanin. That's why they're using EU melanin in the research. Because PHAEO melanin, FAO melanin, is dusky. So in categorizing it, it is a melanoid. Oid means a form of whatever the prefix is. So in this case, it's a form of melanin. That's why theirs can't get black unless, certain conditions. Now, there were two scientists who did a mapping of the brain. And they located 12 sites in the brain that contain EU melanin. When melanin is in the brain, we call it neuromelanin. There are no melanocytes in the brain. So the chemistry of EU melanin is slightly different than the skin melanin here, which we call EU melanin, skin dermal melanin. So there are no melanocytes there making the melanin. So it has to be laid down by eating those foods containing pigments so that it can resupply those centers and change and take in all those colored pigments. Even the ginger root has a color to it. If you don't believe it, take the juice out. Put a little lemon juice there and it turns pink. So everything in nature has pigments. So those pigments are used metabolically to regenerate any cells you have in the body or any deep structures that need to be regenerated.
It was also noted that the antihypertensive drugs, because of the structure of our bodies, that when they gave us enough to decrease our blood pressure, everything else decreased. Our desire for sex, desire to eat, desire to think, desire to move, and everything else. I'm like, oh, this is like really interesting. So the key here is, what are we going to do? Because now it's very clear that there is a whole hospital system that we have been asked to become clients of that do not have the information to be able to treat us appropriately based on our basic chemistry and sensitivity. Are you going to ask the doctor to go back to medical school to find out what is needed for you? And most of them, I don't think, would take that too well. So the key here is that there needs to then be an understanding that there are certain things that you can do for yourself to help you until the system catches up with understanding.
Now, here we go. The races of humans. This is how races are classified according to white people. Not according to me. This is not Dr. Africa said. This is according to Johns Hopkins University, Emory University. This is how they classify races. Rated 1 with the lowest melanin content is the Caucasians. Rated 2 and 3 are the yellow, mixed, and brown race, which you call the Orientals. Rated 4 are the brown and red people, Native Americans and Japanese. Rated 5 are the black, brown, and brown people, which we call the native Indians from Mexico. The Mexicans, Himalayas, you know that race I'm talking about? Rated 6 with the highest melanin content is black folks. You are rated the highest on the human scale by white people. Did you know that? No. That presents a problem. You go in a classroom, they start breaking this thing down to you. Say, we rated the highest on the human scale here. You say, okay, and we come from Africa. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Is this stuff I'm making up? And I say, no, you're not making up. You really respond to life better than I do. Then they start showing you books, The Magical Child by Joseph Pierce. Then they show you another book, Infancy in Uganda by Mary Ainsworth. And these are books about them studying black children whose mother was on natural food and breastfed, and father was on natural food and breastfed. And they studied these children. And the child born with these parents could sit up at birth, look his mother and father in his eye, know its name, know his mother and father's name at birth. Documented. The Magical Child by Joseph Pierce. They didn't believe it. They went back 10 years again and studied the same thing. Same thing happened. They didn't believe it. Mary Ainsworth went back and studied it. Infancy in Uganda. Same thing. Yes, you grow at a faster rate than white people. You have the highest, the fastest growth and development of a child than any race. You can be toilet trained at 1 year old. It takes a white child 2 years for their nerve to grow to that muscle that controls their bladder. You're raising your children like retards and wondering what's happening. Because nobody told you you had melanin. Nobody told you it causes you to have the highest growth and development. Nobody told you you learned how to toilet train earlier. No one told you learned how to speak earlier. No one told you. Why should they tell you that anyway? You think they're going to tell you something so you want to be free?
I was very surprised to find out that because of our structure, we mature almost 50% faster than the Caucasian race. That is to say that they have identified the fact that the African is an adult by age 14. That the African can actually begin to be toilet trained by 6 months of age. And so therefore, when the African child is held at home and not allowed to go to school until he or she is 5 years old, retardation has already ensued. When the African child is not asked to begin to become aware of their own neurologic function and memory function at 6 months old, and they're asked to wait till 2 years old, retardation has already ensued. So now, then what are we to do? Because now we have to become aware of the fact that we are living in a system that is not serving us for us to be our best. We can ask the question if that is the system's responsibility or is it ours to give ourselves the best.
There is a biochemical difference between black women's breast milk and white women's breast milk, because white women's breast milk has the least amount of vitamins and minerals in it of any breast milk. Black women's breast milk, I just told you that. Even white people know that. You ever heard of a white mammy? Am I getting to you here? Even they know who has the best breast milk. Okay, maybe you think I'm going a little too far. The brother's gone off the edge here. He's gone off the... I'm just telling you, you go down south. I'm telling you, they know who has the best breast milk. You don't know, but they know. So we got to go back here and rediscover ourselves for what we are. And that's what this science is all about. And I have the normal medical lab values, the normal daily allowances set for Europeans by Europeans. The breast milk is set on the white woman's breast milk, which has a different fat and protein ratio. What I'm saying is, if you put a black child on a white woman's breast, it reduces the child's sucking time on the nipple. and reduces the child response if you take the breast out of their mouth. It reduces the ability of the child to bond to itself, to bond to its mother, to bond to its culture. Just by switching the fat and protein ratio in the breast milk, which you call Similac or Similac, which is based on a white woman's breast milk. Not a black woman's breast milk, a white woman's breast milk. So you give that to your child, and it reduces the child's ability to bond to its mother and to bond to itself.
Yeah, I don't say too much about sickle cell because I'm just healing over that, really, a personal healing. Because when I began to look at the campaign that was put forth in the late 60s, the little monies that were put together to have these little buses go in our community to draw our blood out, it was actually for genetic research. It was not to actually elucidate any type cure for sickle cell because it was understood that it was not a disease. It is actually an environmental adaptation. And so in those areas in Africa where it was very moist and swampy, where mosquitoes reigned, that the red blood cell took on a different shape so that it could actually exist with this particular bacteria in the bloodstream and not allow the individual to die. Okay? Now, sickle cell is not a problem anywhere in the world if the individual eats a diet that is respectful of their body. One of the worst things that Africans with sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease can do is begin to eat sugar. When you give sickle cell trait, sickle cell individual sugar, I mean, somebody was even telling me that they give them Gatorade. I was astounded in the hospital because this person is going to crisis, 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 crisis on to the grave. You can never have sickle cell because the first thing it does, it attacks the spleen. And if you have sickle cell, you've got to keep your spleen healthy so that it can continuously take those distorted blood cells out of the circulation so that you can function. If you eat sugar, the spleen becomes non-functional. All these abnormal cells then now get stuck in the joints, and that's when you start having pain and stiffness. And the bilirubin, which is a breakdown product of the blood, now backs up into the blood, overloads the liver. You get jaundice and the whole ugly scenario. So the key is that sugar is a no-no for these individuals. They cannot have Hostess Twinkies. They cannot have cupcakes. They cannot have juice. They cannot have pop. They cannot have white bread. They cannot eat any of that. And if they were in Africa, none of that would exist, right? So that's why everybody's walking around with sickle cell and nobody knew they had it. Because they did not eat a diet that challenged the blood to challenge the spleen so that it became a problem. So this is one of the worst things that parents can do that have children with sickle cell is to give them juice, pop, dairy products, sugar, and white flour foods. And if you stay away from that, I guarantee you, you won't know that you have sickle cell or sickle cell trait. Okay? Thank you. Okay.
So put your mind in touch with the realities of good health, get back to pristine health. We can live, and we have the ability to live to be 150 years old. And the only way you can do that is that you have to eat what your body is biologically designed to do. And you have about 5 feet of plumbing there called the digestive tract that is meant for things to be pulled along that tract, taking out that which it needs metabolically along the way. And the transient time should be very short. So if you have 3 turnovers a day, it means your body is working very efficiently. If you're not, then you're filled with toxins that can recirculate by taken back into the capillaries and then circulated throughout the body, re-polluting the system. So let your melanin work for you. We don't have these conferences in vain. We want you to be able to sit and to think and to get in touch with that pineal, bring it back to life, get out of materialism, too much materialism, and the physical emphasis, and get in touch with the spiritual. Mind, body, and spirit have to be all there together. With that, I must say, Hotep, my brother, thanks very much. I wasn't being selfish. I just had to say that to you. God bless you.